Today we will explore what is perhaps the most pervasive problem to spring forth from the dog world, the pit bull plague.
I'll show you, follow me. Welcome to the
Anti-dog community.
This is now a global phenomenon, and it is impossible to ignore its existence. Before diving in, we should note that too narrow a focus on pit bulls can serve as a distraction from a broader fundamental problem. That problem, which accounts for a far wider scope of issues, is with the normalization and acceptance of dogs as pets at all. The overly permissive social attitudes that prevail today likewise contribute. Such attitudes are largely responsible for the current state of affairs we find ourselves hopelessly mired in. In terms of one-on-one interactions with pit apologists, it is not worth entertaining pointless debates over what is, and what is not, a pit bull. We need to remember that they are all violent dogs with incredibly similar physical characteristics. You can try to tell us that a Staffordshire Terrier isn't a pit bull until you are blue in the face, but in the real world, these dogs are all functionally identical. So let's be very clear about something. This is a dog that consistently makes the news for viciously attacking people, pets, and other animals. The dogs commonly referred to as pit bulls by the general public, and sometimes by breeders and sellers, tend to have a cameo on the news and on channels which highlight their extreme nature. The shared tendency of these dogs to launch brutal, often unexpected attacks is why many people oppose them. Those who nitpick about the exact breed type are typically doing so because they are engaging in obfuscation. This is not about strict categorization, but about public health and safety. I tend to go along with Ohio, where the legal definition of a pit bull is
a breed of dog, commonly known as a pit bull.
Anyone who understands how language works will get that the way the term is often applied in ordinary usage is perfectly valid. In common parlance, the term pit bull does not refer to a singular unique breed, but rather several closely related breeds and their mixes. If it looks like, or if it is, one of, or a mix of, any of the following, then for all intents and purposes, it is a pit bull, the American Pit Bull Terrier, American Bully, and the so-called Staffordshire Terrier, either of the American variety or the Bull Terrier, and others. For people insisting that the APBT and AM staff are so different, they are, again, functionally identical, and are basically just called a different name today. But I would also like to add,
as with all of the bully breeds, these two breeds evolved from the horrible blood sports of yesteryear of bull baiting, bear baiting, and pit fighting with other dogs, where their owners would put the two animals together in a fighting pit and wager on them.
As I wrote elsewhere, pit bulls and pit mixes have a very distinct look. But here's a rule of thumb. If it looks like a roided monster, or a science experiment nightmare dog, or a demon on earth, like this, then it is a pit bull. All of the following are considered pit bulls. The three black dogs that follow are particularly similar, although they're supposedly three very distinct things. But all of these dogs are functionally identical.
This is an American Pit Bull Terrier, and for the record, none of these dogs are smiling. Dogs can't and don't smile, although it may appear that way because of the way the mouth is shaped. This is a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. This is an American Staffordshire Terrier. This abomination is called an American Bully. An XL Bully. Totally looks like a child caretaker or babysitter, huh?
This is an image that comes up when I search pit bull, and which is clearly a pit bull mix of some kind.
The following picture is supposed to distinguish the two dogs, but note how similar they look. There are slight physical distinctions, but nothing which makes the two look like they aren't fundamentally the same thing. It does seem the one on the right has its ears cropped. They're not identical, but the main difference is coloration. It is a surface-level difference, obviously.
Whatever people want to call dogs that look like this, we should ban them. Full stop. But really, any heavily muscled dog of stocky build with a wide chest and a disproportionately large, ridiculously overstated head with bad skin, and a mouth that opens very wide and which can range in weight from 35 to 100 or more pounds, 15.8 to 45.3 kilograms, should be outlawed. They may vary in size, but they all have a muscular body, a broad head, and a short coat. Ultimately, it matters not what it is called. We all know what it looks like, or as one Redditor wrote,
Okay, it wasn't a pibble. It was a dog that had an oversized Halloween pumpkin-looking head, a gaping, warty maw that resembled raw meat, piggy little eyes, amputated ears, and an overdeveloped front end. And it looked exactly like a pit bull. I don't care what you call it. You can call it a pixie if you want, but everyone knows what it is.
although it doesn't have to have bad skin like a pit bull. Arguments can be made to ban any large, heavily muscled dog of stocky build, or any dog that is large, powerful, or aggressive enough to attack a full-grown adult. Any dog that's willing to attack something as large as a horse clearly has no place in human settlements. If it is a dog that might be used by some people for dog fighting, or if it's the kind of dog that would be used for guarding, or as an attack dog, it is likewise out of place among humans. If it can be wielded as a weapon, like with today's police dogs and the war dogs of previous times, the same applies. If it can be found on a dangerous dogs list, the same applies. But of course, they aren't all pit bulls. All the same, the point is moot. They don't have to be called the same thing, and they don't have to belong to a singular breed. Once again, this is a public health issue. There's a reason pit bulls, pit mixes, boxers, mastiffs, Rottweilers, Great Danes, and also German Shepherds and all wolf dogs, as well as Doberman and other sizable beasts, are naturally recognised as dangerous. Anything that's come down from the Molosser dogs, all the same applies. These are various, very large breeds built for war, often having large bones, broad muzzles, and heavily muscled necks. They can often be recognised by their pendant ears. Who wants any of these dogs coming after them? Dogs commonly listed as dangerous breeds, predominantly pit bulls and pit bull mixes, dominated fatal dog attack listings on Wikipedia before it was scrubbed. Pit bulls are responsible for a disproportionate amount of fatal and life-altering attacks, even among the likes of large, dangerous dogs. What makes the pit bull so dangerous, apart from how they are wired and bred to behave, is the fighting dog's attack style. Pit bulls don't seem to react to pain when they're in attack mode. Unlike many other dogs, they will not simply bite once or twice and then release. They will clamp onto a target when they attack, and they will absolutely refuse to let go. While they do so, they zone out and completely ignore all pain. By the way, many videos online illustrate this. And their hold and shake bite style causes severe tissue damage, often inflicting permanent and disfiguring injuries in victims.
Now, do pit bull breeds actually have something called lockjaw bites? Now, there are lots of misconceptions about pit bull breeds. They're not a very popular breed and are seen as quite aggressive. But what about lockjaw? Is this something that is real or is it a myth? Well, ultimately it is a myth and not something that's ever been proven. It's one of the most popular misconceptions about pit bull dogs that they, unlike other dogs, lock their jaws. Now, the reality is that no dog of any breed or mix has an anatomical structure in their jaws that functions as a locking mechanism. The American Pit Bull Terriers, as well as other Pit Bull Terriers, do not have any unique mechanism that allow these dogs to lock their jaws. There's no mechanical or morphological differences between these dogs and other dogs' jaws. Now, they do have a strong bite, and this is because they're bred to be fighting dogs, so they do need a lot of very intense training if you do have a Pit Bull Terrier, but they don't have lockjaw. This is a myth.
Pit bull apologists will often jump at the chance to tell anyone who will listen that pit bulls don't actually lock their jaws. But if pit bulls don't have a mechanism in their jaw causing them to lock involuntarily, this means they do it willingly. It's the equivalent of putting a person in a chokehold and refusing to let go, although you could. But the way they do clamp on and refuse to let go, it's the functional equivalent of locking their jaws. In other words, they may as well lock their jaws. It's a moot point. Google, what is a breakstick? Now, I'm not saying every single one will attack someone or anything of the kind, but plenty of them do, and you never know which one will or not, or when. They are like ticking time bombs. Also, just to compare and contrast, here is the much less dangerous wild fox. Compare that with a pit bull, even with its mouth closed. You can tell the pit bull is capable of far greater harm, but look how wide a pit bull's mouth can open. Whilst we mostly judge pit bulls based on their objective mauling statistics, I personally reject this idea some put forth, that we can't judge pit bulls based on their appearance. You absolutely can tell if a living organism is potentially harmful or dangerous, based entirely on its size and structure. What follows is a post I saved from a couple years back, which someone posted online in relation to pit bulls specifically. And I quote,
"If a creature has certain structural features, it is for a reason. If a dog's structure include a massive jaw and head, then its function will follow as being for the purpose of crushing, maiming, and brutalizing with greater force than a creature with a slimmer, more petite structure. If the dog's structure is muscular and bulky, then its function will be to move forcefully and aggressively. The creature's form will necessarily dictate how it moves and operates in the world."
This makes a lot of sense, being that we were prey to animals in nature for the vast bulk of our existence as a species, that is to say, anatomically modern Homo sapiens. We are hardwired to recognize potentially dangerous objects in the world. The overall physical appearance of a plant or animal conveys a great deal of information about whether interacting with it can harm us or not. I do want to address something from this ridiculous pro-pit bull propaganda from Vox.
A pit bull was the lovable sidekick of the Little Rascals, and they were even used in military posters to advertise patriotism.
That's funny, because from what I've read, the dog on The Little Rascals was a vicious beast that most of the children were terrified of off camera. And is this really so inconceivable from a pit bull? I don't think anyone is going to poison a dog that isn't causing anyone grief.
If you want to support this content and see more of it, please like and subscribe. If you hate this content and want to fight for weird predator parasites,